This is an All Over the Road New Orleans special edition, part 2 of the exclusive interview with the pharmacist Dan Schneider from the Netflix Docu-series. Now from the Coin Trader Studios in New Orleans, Louisiana, here's Victor DelGiorno with The Calling.
Investigations.
Yes, is this Sergeant Fan Guy?
Yes, it is.
How you doing? This is Dan Schneider.
I knew I was going to have an uphill battle with the police. They kind of almost have the attitude that these kind of kids maybe got what they deserved.
Yeah, Sergeant Fan Guy.
Thank you, Sergeant Fan Guy. What you got?
Wanted to let you know that we found out who the shooter was on your son's case.
Thank you. Do we have any witnesses on?
We do have an eyewitness.
Okay.
Kid has picked his pitch out. We're getting ready to take a statement from him.
Well, yeah. I mean, when you in the beginning of the show, I talk about Daniel being a hero, and of course, behind every great man is a great woman, and then we talk about did I do the right thing? Did I do the right thing? Obviously, you did, but I think and this isn't a question. I'm just going to make a statement. Is the real hero in this is Danny.
Right. Yes.
None of this happens.
None of this happens
without Danny.
Unfortunately.
You're right.
Yeah. And I will say this. I'm not that great of a guy that if I could have him back and we wipe all this other stuff off, which I hate to say it, they say I've saved a lot of lives. I think I did. I wanted my son back, so sure. I didn't want this, but I did try to make the best of a horrible situation, and I knew he would want me to.
How was this whole tragedy? And it was a tragedy, aside from losing your son, and wounds that'll never heal. They never really know. It says in the show, Christmas is never the same. Nothing's ever really the same. And you guys will be in my prayers forever. But how has all this, the whole ordeal, changed your life? Let me start with Annie. How has it changed your life, Annie?
Well, Danny's changed. He's a little bit more energetic, getting up in the morning, trying to.
He's not watching Gunsmoke.
No, always on the phone, talking to somebody, always on the computer, looking up something, reading emails at night to me. Oh, wow. Listen to what these people said. They said I saved their son's life, or, they're asking questions about what can I do with my daughter? She's on drugs, where can I turn to? I want to help. I want to be in your organization. Mm-hmm. It makes us feel good, and I know it makes Christy feel good too, So.
Right.
Hit me with it.
Yeah, my life is totally changed. And she's right about one thing. I used to be a news hog, okay? And I would watch a lot of talking heads on both sides, okay? Mm-hmm. And almost every night, and it used to drive her crazy, I would watch 3 hours of this. And some of it was just repeated by different talking heads, okay? But I was obsessed to get little crumbs of information about this. Then I'd get up in the morning, I'd read the newspaper. And mainly the section that had the opinions and stuff like that. So now since this, I watch almost no talking heads. Okay, I might watch a little bit of national news. Most of the news I get now is through Facebook, what other people tell me, and then I kind of check it out.
You don't look at the newspaper too much either.
Newspapers, they still in the wrappers now. So
I'll throw them away.
Probably
they're still delivering those. What are they doing?
No,
we could probably cancel.
Yeah,
it
I'm getting ready to.
So that and then you start. It's incredible, because recently I got a phone call, okay, from a guy named Mike Butticelli.
Nice Italian boy.
Yeah.
Yes.
Any idea who he is?
No, I don't.
Okay, well, he was Obama's drug czar.
Whoa.
Like I used to try to get some little state senator to maybe open a door for me, and that wasn't easy. I got the drug czar calling me.
Wow.
Okay.
Oh, dude, you're the man now. You better use it. Use it while you can.
Yeah.
For real.
I got universities want me to give their commencement address. I got Ireland wants me to go speak in a Catholic cathedral in Ireland, a little town called Derry, which is right above Dublin, Dublin, I believe it is. And then they want me to speak in Italy. Of course, the coronavirus is going to do some of this. And they want me to speak in Australia. They want me to speak in Philippines. I got about 10 occasion speaks around the country. And it's like, I worked for 20 years, okay, and I did those two things, but you don't see a lot of the grunt work I did, which was like have a little town hall meeting, or go talk at a little middle school or high school, and I wrote articles to put in a newspaper to educate the public, and it just seemed like I know I did some good, but it just seemed like really wasn't.
You were spinning your wheels.
It wasn't dramatic. I never did. People have always said, if you save one life. I mean, I like that phrase, but I never thought that way. To me, the price that we had to pay, I had to save more than one life. Okay.
Oh yeah.
And that's happening. So now I have this platform, and I got these people that that are begging to try to listen to me now, and they got open ears and open hearts and open minds, and it's just opened up a floodgate for what I think I can accomplish now.
Take advantage of it.
Well,
Seize the moment, baby. Seize the moment.
Well, that's why I'm up at 5 o'clock in the morning now and going to sleep at 11 o'clock at night. I was sort of like a maniac. I didn't sleep for days. I was 24 hours.
FBI?
I've been working on a way to get her. And the way to get her was how they got Al Capone. Tax evasion.
Are there any things in the docuseries that Netflix didn't cover that you wish they would have?
Well, actually, I mentioned one of them, and I kind of know why they didn't, okay? I would like them to cover a little bit more how 1201, Danny's poem against the death penalty. I should have brought a copy of it. I don't think I did, but...
You know what you can do? If you email it to me, I'll get you my email. We'll post it on the website.
I will, but you know what I'll do? Yeah. I'll try to give you a couple of lines of it, okay? But
okay, go.
Anyway, they filmed me reading that.
Okay.
And then they knew the significance, okay? And then they filmed me reading another one of his poems, which is pretty deep itself, but it really didn't have a direct impact on the case. 1201 saved the kid's life, maybe, okay? Wow. It structured a lot of what I was going to do. And they chose not to do that. Now, and I think it's because it would have taken them a lot of time to set it up. There were so many things that they were trying to get in. I just don't think they could get that in. So I kind of forgive them. But that hurt because it's a significant poem, and people now are thinking about, is the death penalty the right thing to do? Okay, and I know that's a little controversial, but the truth is, I had a conversation with my son about the death penalty before he wrote that poem. Okay, and he was completely for it and against the death penalty, and I was for it. And so we debated like father and son. Maybe it was an argument actually. Okay, and so finally I said, "Okay, Danny, you win." I said, they probably shouldn't be a death penalty because you know what? It takes like 13 years, okay? Spend fortunes of dollars, okay? The people in the neighborhood where he killed somebody, most of them are dead or moved. I said, it has no deterrent effect, okay? So I told him, I said, you know what the problem is, Danny? They ain't killing them fast enough. Well, he got pissed off about that.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
It sounds like he would have.
Well, I mean, he had a different take. I mean, to me, it was a mechanical thing, or maybe that's not the right word, but if you could get a result, it was okay taking their lives. Okay. He had this intrinsic nature about himself that we didn't have the right to take anybody's life, no matter what. Okay, unless it was self-defense.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
And it isn't self-defense anymore. I mean, the Catholic religion now says no death penalty because they used to couldn't lock people up and secure them. Now they can. Now I know there's the rare breakout and all this other crap, but generally speaking, you put them away, they're never going to kill again. Okay, as long as it's put away and can't get out.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
So 1201 was just, I even asked Danny. I said this. I said, Danny, if your mom or your sister were killed, you wouldn't want the death penalty? No way.
Wow.
Now I'll just give you just a little bit. I'm not going to be able. I used to have it memorized, but I don't quite anymore. But I can give you a couple lines.
Okay, great.
Okay, so it's 12:01 a.m. is the title. Okay, number one, Danny died at 12:08 a.m. Well, excuse me, he was pronounced dead at 12:08 a.m. He died before that. Okay, now was it 10 minutes before, 15 minutes, 20 minutes before? I don't know. Okay, but he might have died at 12:01. It's damn close. Okay, so in any event, he wrote the poem, and it starts off, wrong turn. It's like a mystery story. Just right there. It's been a mystery story, and there was a wrong turn. And it was, I read this to Jeffrey one time, and he said Danny took a wrong turn. Well, Danny actually did, okay? But Danny's wrong turn was to buy a drug. He was addicted, apparently, okay? And he had to have this drug, right? Jeffrey's wrong turn was killing somebody. Okay, so, you know, but, you know, it does apply to both, sort of. Okay,
Yeah,
wrong
it does,
turn.
yeah.
And then life burns. Well, Danny's dead. He had fire shot into his head. Okay, and Jeffrey's life is, you know, not too good either. So, and then it's crazy, but then he says something about, as Stephen King writes down his words of glory, critics rave, the body of a killer would be placed in his long-awaited grave. The parents of the victims paid a high price of admission to watch his pain. Their satisfaction is guaranteed, so everyone claims. A flip of the switch in the dark of the night, a life taken for spite. The light turns dark, new killers are born. And then it finishes with this, but this is really a blockbuster movie, isn't it? Or is it?
It's like a clairvoyant poem.
It's crazy.
High school, he wrote that when he was
Yeah,
junior.
high school.
I mean, you know, if you don't, it's like you said, you know, it looks like God was all over this thing. It really does.
Yeah, I think so.
In my opinion, the U.S. Attorney's Office was not moving fast enough. They don't see people, they don't see families destroyed by the opioid crisis.
How's Christy doing? I know you got 2 grandkids now, and she's doing well.
She's still got her bad days, you know, and with the docu-series coming out and everything, it's all coming back to. And
Right.
she's
How
still
old was she then? She was what?
18.
18.
Yeah, and they were so close. You know, they had a lot of friends together and everything.
They
so.
didn't really fight much like I fought with my sister. Okay?
Right.
I'm not saying they never had a fight, but they were really close. And Christy was shy back then. And Danny was fairly shy, but the girls pulled him into the social life, okay? And then he became friends with a bunch of people. So Christy's whole social life was based upon Danny's social life. So when she lost her brother, she also lost her social life and most of her friends.
Yeah, it said in the show that all of her girlfriends used to love Danny.
Yeah, a
They did.
lot
Yeah.
of them did.
Absolutely.
She'd get mad at that.
Oh, yeah, she was. One of her girlfriends actually started going out with him, and she was pissed off. You know, like, you stole my girlfriend.
That was good for Danny, though. That was good for Danny.
My crazy dream of tunnel of hope that I could maybe make a difference or be a part of something that could make a difference may very well become a reality.
Tell me about Tunnel of Hope.
That's another really, really interesting story. Shortly, it's crazy, but the day that Jeffrey was sentenced, we came home and my answer machine was beeping. And I answered it, and it was Danny's English teacher. The English teacher he had when he wrote 401. That English teacher put it in a binder together with a bunch of other good poems called the Hand and Hawk. So it was recognized as being one of the better poems from his class. And so I had told him early on, I said, at some point in time, I want to try to do something to educate kids. So now he has no idea what's going on. We just left the courthouse. Kid goes away in handcuffs. He's going to go away for 15 years, but 13 and a half minimum. And so he says, well, I don't know what's going on with the case, he said, but we have a Red Ribbon Week, and it's like maybe 10 days from now. And he said, you know, if you're not ready, you can just come and sit in. If you're ready, we'd like you to speak. And again, it was just almost like the Cleggett thing. It was kind of like, well, wait a second, I was supposed to get a break here. I prayed on it. I think I talked with my wife about it. And of course, sometimes I didn't talk to her because she would have told me no. But then
You wind up talking anyway.
so anyway, the next day I called him back and said, yeah, okay. And I gave this great talk at Haddon, and they videotaped it, and they say it was the best talk that I ever had. We had Danny's picture there. We had one of his friends, you know, his sister was there. I mean, it was great. Well, then we leave and we go to Walmart, okay? And we in Walmart, and she's buying a frame for a picture that we had. It was one of the last pictures that we had for Christmas. And it was a picture in the Roosevelt Hotel with that halo of lights, okay? Notice the halo, okay? And my son and his girlfriend and my wife, and we were all in this picture, and there's this halo. Well, it didn't really quite hit me, okay? But I think subconsciously it did. And then, so people come up to her and say, geez, did such a great job. So she picks this frame out. It's kind of crazy. She had to do this, I guess, consciously, but I don't know. She picks this frame up, and it's circled with writings like, one person can make a difference. Nothing's impossible without God. I mean, it's got all these motivational things, and she puts that picture in that frame, and we put it on a table or something, and it just kind of. So in any event, then now I'm going on this mission now. At that point, not to shut doctors down, the educational mission, so to teach parents and teach kids about drugs and whatnot. And so then every day I go to work, I'm trying to think, what am I going to name this thing? Mm-hmm. Okay, and so every day I go to work, I'll go through these trees on Highway 39, and it's there's a bunch of oak trees in a line, and it kind of closes off. And it kind of like hit me. I said, these problems we have is like a dark tunnel, okay? But there's light at the end of every tunnel, and that light is hope. Okay. Right. And so even like when my son's poem, when he said, the light is gone, new killers are born, the day turns black, and so it just was natural. And so we started with Tunnel Hope and have carried it forth ever since.
Well, I don't know if you know this or not, but this calling that you have, this path that God's got you on, this might be a ride you're not going to be able to get off of for a while.
Yeah, I know. She's worried about that. And I've promised now, because I've been obsessed about a lot along the way, and I've kind of promised her that I'm going to throttle this. And I hope I can, okay? And maybe I can, because right now the grandkids are staying with us, and they'll come up to Grandpa and say, you're on the phone all the time, Grandpa, okay, which I am, okay? And so then all of a sudden, I'll put the phone down, and I go in the backyard and put them on the swing. Yeah. And so, they bring me back to reality. And so I'm going to do my best. But it is time to make hay too. So I'm going to have to push.
Yeah. And I think you're the man for the job. I mean, I think that you're the perfect man for the job. So, any regrets, anything you would have done differently? And then don't pull any punches.
Yeah. I wish I could have figured out that my son was doing the drugs. Mm-hmm. Okay. The only thing we'd ever known was marijuana. Okay. Mm-hmm. But obviously, in hindsight, after, there were some signs. And he kind of misled me a little bit, too. I asked him even if he was doing drugs, because he had done a few things that bothered us that seemed unusual. And he told me, he said, no, I'm depressed. So I treated it. I was relieved when he said that. Okay. The other crazy thing he said was, I said, well, son, are you suicidal? He said, no. And he said some great things. He said, Dad, he says, I got great parents. I got a great life. I got a new truck. And, that was a gift, too, for him to say that. And this is shortly before he dies, okay? And he also told me, I'm depressed because I don't know what I want to be, okay? And so I told him, he was thinking about being an architect. He was thinking about being a weatherman, so on and so forth. Mm-hmm. And so I told him, I said, look, take some pressure off. I said, look, I don't care if you're be a driver for a truck or something, or you milkman, or you just any, just make a decent living. I'm fine with that. I said, so why don't you choose drafting, okay, instead of just thinking of architecture? And if worst comes to worst, you're a drafter. They make a pretty good income. And so that seemed to relieve him. And actually he came downstairs like maybe the next night or something. This is only a couple of days before he dies. He comes down like the next night and he tells us, he said, Dad, I think you're right. I'm going to focus on just drafting, one little step at a time, okay? And of course, now we now know in the background he's doing drugs, so he's kind of in trouble. But I didn't know that, and I feel relieved, and he seems to be relieved. A bunch of things he did was like things he had. He went and got his contact lenses that have been bugging him for 3 months to go do. He always bugged him to cut the grass. He went and cut the grass without us asking. Okay. So the other thing he tells me, he says, Dad, he says, I said I want to be a draftsman. He says, but I'd like to do some part-time writing. And later we found all of his writings and with great wisdom. And he says, there's something else I'd like to do. He said, I'd like to try to encourage kids not to try drugs. And when he said that, I said, this kid gets it. Daddy's been telling him that. But we now know, and it's sadly, is he had in his mind that, Daddy, you warned me and I'm trapped. I regret that he didn't feel like he could
Tell us.
Tell us.
Right.
Okay, and so I think that's another message to parents. Okay, to make sure they know that you can tell them. And I think he should have known that. Okay, obviously I got mad, but God, we would have worked with the kid.
You have to tell your parents how you feel.
Yeah.
Right, and also friends. We got another little concept we got out of this. He had a bunch of friends that knew he was doing this. And when everybody says, yeah, okay, well, most of them wasn't doing crack though. Okay, and then going to the ninth ward to buy it. Okay, it's crazy. So at the funeral, some of these kids said, Miss Danny, we like to carry his coffin. At that time, I didn't know exactly who knew, who didn't do it. Later on, I would find out, get graveside confessions and whatnot, learned about his drug use and whatnot. And so I thought about it, and then I said, no, I got family members. And I let one kid carry his coffin, and this was a kid that came to us one time and said, Danny's smoking pot, but he seems to be doing it a lot. He seems to be wasted a little bit. So I really appreciate that. And we approached Danny, we had a little intervention about it and whatnot, okay? Well, now I think, we got 5 family members. You need 6. So I asked that kid. Well, a couple of days later, we up in my game room where they used to play pool with all of his friends, and I'm grilling them. What the hell did y'all know? What the hell? How did this happen? What was he doing? How long was he doing it? Okay. And one of the kids says, Mr. Danny, how come you didn't let us carry the coffin? I said, you guys carried the coffin before he died. And so the message that I got there, and look, my son would have probably not said anything either. Okay, so that's one thing I'd like to change. I'd really like to change that it's the right thing to do. The concept is friends care, don't cover. Friends care, don't cover.
That's good.
And I want to get that into educational minds. And if we can only get 10% of the kids to think that way, even the good kids that don't do drugs, they usually know who is. They also know who's selling it. Okay, and these good kids say, well, I'm not going to do it. But they say, but I ain't saying nothing. We could unravel this thing. The kids know more than the cops do. You can get shunned a little bit if you're so-called rat. Okay? But there's anonymous ways of doing it. Okay, these kids could have dropped a note in my box, in my mailbox. Hey, I hate to tell you this, but Danny's doing crack and he's going in the ninth ward. Now, maybe some parents would have said, well, that's bullshit. I'd have found out.
We know now you would have.
I went home and I remember taking the first Oxycontin, and it made me feel great.
Back with more of The Calling with Dan Schneider, the pharmacist, right after this.
All Over the Road New Orleans is brought to you by CoinTrader Inc. For real-time prices on gold, silver, platinum, and palladium 24/7, go to goldpricesnow.com. That's goldpricesnow.com. Now here's part 2 of the All Over the Road New Orleans special, an exclusive interview with the pharmacist, Dan Schneider, from the Netflix Docu-series.
I'm Dan Schneider, and I'm a pharmacist. I can almost remember every piece of my life. I have hundreds of hours from wiretapping phone conversations about what happened to me. My son was murdered buying crack. The police have the attitude that these kids maybe got what they deserved. But I was determined to get the killer off the street. And if the police wasn't going to do it, I was going to do it. At first, my mission was to get justice for my son. But then I started noticing in the drugstore, a lot of kids around my son's age coming in with high-powered opiate prescriptions for Oxycontin.
Word on the street was, it's just heroin in a pill.
There was a certain doctor using her license to virtually decimate my community. I couldn't look the other way.
There was a rumor that there was a pharmacist making a lot of noise, and that's not good for business.
He had questions all the time. Why aren't you doing this? Why aren't you doing that?
There were boxes and boxes of materials.
All right, Dan, we're not being recorded again, are we?
No. The DA and FBI was either incompetent or in cahoots.
I just knew that people were making money.
If there ever was a smoking gun, that was it.
I am being followed.
We sounded crazy.
I think they waving a gun at me.
Help me, God, and hopefully anybody else who hears this, because I'm losing it.
And I saw this opiate epidemic in its infancy. I'm not going to let this drug continue to kill.
What about when Danny, boy to grow up, moves out?
Oh, boy, Jesus, that's another story. Jesus. God is all over this thing, okay? So anyway, we go to Mardi Gras. He dies in April. Mardi Gras in March. We go out with his girlfriend and whatnot. And, hey, we typical New Orleans people. I go up there to see the sights, as you might say. And we go there early in the morning, and we really don't want to catch the parade so much. We're going to come back early. So we go up there, and we're walking through the French Quarter, seeing some sights. And, you got these guys carrying crosses in there. Yeah. Okay, and so, I'm pretty tolerant, and so I don't really ridicule these guys, okay? But I kind of think to myself, what the heck are they doing out here?
Yeah.
So in any event, I get a little bit in front of Danny, and Danny falls back, and everybody was just Danny by himself. He gets caught by one of these guys.
Okay.
And he stops to talk to the guy, okay? And I'm kind of overhearing it and watching it, catching some of the words, because maybe he's here, maybe he's 20 feet away, okay? And so
y'all are in the quarter, because this happens in the quarter,
right? It's right in the French Quarter, right in front of St. Louis Cathedral.
Right.
I think that's where we catch it. Or it might have been Bourbon, okay? But anyway, so he catches Danny, and I see him talking. In fact, it turns into a little bit of an argument, not a nasty argument, okay, but kind of like this guy says this, and Danny says, but this, and, that kind of thing. And then at the end, the guy says, brother, will you pray with me? And they said the sinner's prayer together.
Okay.
Now, the minute Danny died, now, you remember now, when I saw that, I didn't make too much of it. Danny was that kind of kid. He would be polite. Okay? Probably didn't agree with the guy, probably thought the guy was weird, okay? I don't know why he said this. Maybe just to make the guy feel good, okay? But after your kid dies, too, you say, well, geez, if he was doing something wrong, did he go to heaven? Okay. And the truth is, the Catholics don't say this so much, but most people say that if you say the sinner's prayer, which is, I believe in Jesus, and please forgive me my sins, and I'm going to change my life, okay? That's your ticket to heaven, okay? I got to see that. Mm-hmm. How did I get to see that? Also, I now know the purpose of those guys.
Saving people.
You got to understand.
Oh, no, that's why they're there. They're there to plant seeds.
Well, no, but not everybody dies within 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And the fact that some kind of way they attracted my son, and he said that, it's I don't know, it's just part of this crazy, almost divine type of thing. It is almost a method to this thing.
God did it.
And all that has motivated me. It is because I just feel like something's going on here. I've been called. Okay, maybe unfortunately my son's been called. Now, I don't believe God said, okay, I'm going to kill Danny, okay, so that you can go do all these great things. But I think he gave me the strength, and he let me see things like that. Let me see the good in Danny. The fact that he was, you might say, almost innocent, okay? I just feel like that's what I had to do.
Well, what did God do to reconcile people to him? He gave his what?
His only son. Oh, I know, and I don't like to quite make those analogies because I'm not in. I'm not in that league. Okay,
no, I know it's not your league, but it's true.
No, I was thinking about Abraham and Isaac and that kind of story, and I mean the payoff from it. Essentially, I mean you can kind of correlate the two stories, together.
Absolutely, but the truth is, I've been getting hundreds, if not thousands, of comments. Yeah. There's been a few comments that have said that.
Yeah.
Oh, I believe it.
That have referred to Jesus. I guess I'm flattered, but I don't want it to go to that extreme. I mean, there's no comparison. No.
Well, you can rest assured on this podcast, none of that will be cut out.
Okay, good.
None of it will be cut out.
Well, you might say this. I wanted a little bit more God in that docu-series than we got. Now, we did get some.
Definitely.
We got some, okay? Mm-hmm. But I wanted a little bit more. But in all fairness, I know the game. If they make it too religious, then you turn some people off. Not everybody feels the way Christians do or believers do, okay? And so I think they struck a pretty good balance. But now that I got this, in fact, they told me this, and they were dead right. I didn't buy it completely. I said, yeah, but man, I want this thing to send messages. One message, believe. Okay? Mm-hmm. And they said, well, look, you'll have a chance after. You'll have a platform after. And I got to go, yeah, sure. Okay. Well, I got a platform.
That's
okay.
Cool.
So they were dead right, and everybody loved it. Atheists loved it. Christians love it. Jews love it. Everybody. I have had calls from India. Okay? Wow. India. I've had calls from Saudi Arabia. I've had calls from... Australia? No,
Philippines.
But weird. Egypt, Cairo, Egypt. Have calls. Cairo, Egypt. Israel. It's crazy, So I don't know. There's been times when I thought after Danny died that, maybe this story is so powerful, or maybe God is directing this, and maybe I can really make a significant difference. And then I kind of thought I couldn't, because I wasn't making much ground. Now it looks like maybe I can. Maybe that dream is possible. It would really be neat 3 years from now to look back and maybe we got 50% of the problem, and me and Danny had something to do with it. Mm-hmm. And of course, now understand, I don't want to take that much credit. The only way that we're going to do this, maybe one guy gets it started, okay? A lot of people got to jump on the bandwagon. We're not going to do this by ourselves.
The county is joining a growing number of local governments suing opioid manufacturers.
Florida heading to court today to take on opioid drug makers and distributors.
It is a new day in Oklahoma in our battle against the opioid epidemic.
In Michigan, over 1,600 people died of opioid overdoses last year.
1,375 Texans died.
Opioid addiction is a public health menace to South Carolina.
The gross misconduct enabled countless New Yorkers to obtain prescriptions that were not medically necessary.
Their strategy was simple. The more drugs they sold, the more money they made.
Nearly 2,000 lawsuits have been filed against Purdue Pharma.
I'm one of the senior lawyers involved in representing most of the local governments in South Louisiana, including St. Bernard, against the opioid industry.
After this tremendous journey that I've been on, I've become aware that Walter Leger, my good high school buddy, okay, is the attorney that's representing St. Bernard Parish. And it relieved my burden. I finally had somebody that could make something happen. Walter was a guy that could make these guys pay.
Well, you have our help, and anytime you want to come on the show, you're welcome. And I'd like to do a follow-up at some point.
I appreciate that.
Let you know how things are going.
Yes.
We didn't get into Purdue Pharma, but they got what they had coming to them. Okay.
Well,
congratulations on taking them scumbags down. I mean, the part in the docu-series about that salesman talking about,
that was remarkable.
I mean, it's everything comes down to money.
He was great. Oh yeah,
he was great. He was really good.
This is really one point that I want to try to finish up with. Okay. People say, what's the next step? Okay. And the next step is this. Okay. Yes, I want to do the education thing. And yes, I hope the police get on a stick and start shutting doctors down and they start showing respect to kids that die from drugs. Remove that stigma, and that there's more treatment, more resources directed to this. But what I also want to do is I want to develop what I'm going to call a people's lobby, okay? Which means if I get a bunch of people to join this thing, I mean, some of them are going to be active, some will be volunteers, some will just give donations, some of them are going to pray, okay? But a lot of them are just going to give me their name and their email. And if I can amass like 1 million of these people, okay, and I think big, okay, and then all of a sudden, a company like Purdue wants to try to lessen the law so that they can push one of their crappy things ahead, I'll be at that table. And and I won't be able to give the congressman or the senator the money that Purdue can give, okay? But I can tell the senator, I said, well, you know what? I got a voice here too. We're not going to give you any money, but I got 1 million people that if I send an email to these 1 million people, okay, they can make your life miserable. If I ask them, a lot of these are parents that lost kids. If I ask them to have demonstrations throughout the country, we'll do it. And I don't know if that's going to change things or not, but there's another side. Who is representing us?
Exactly. So I want to be in your group. Okay?
Amen.
And right now this is kind of timely because of the coronavirus. Right. And if you take a look at all the people that died from opioid overdoses and compare that with the people that are going to die from this coronavirus, there's no comparison. The government, corporate America is doing nothing. Nothing.
You're right.
And so
it's all about money.
Blessings on you. I think something's going to get done. I think you're the right man for the job. Okay,
I know you're wrapping up. I always say one more thing. Okay, well,
no, I'm not wrapping up. Go ahead.
Okay, but no, I want you to wrap up. We got to move on. Okay, I got another appointment to go.
Yeah, I bet you do.
But I'm going to say one other thing. This is not a coincidence either. When I've almost never had a lawyer, but when I started signing the contracts with Cinemark and Netflix, you got to get a lawyer. So I look up an entertainment lawyer, and I stumble upon this lady named Suzette Toledano. Her office happens to be on the top of the House of Blues.
There you go.
Kind of
Love
strange.
it.
Cool, though.
Yeah.
Love it.
So in any event, she really gets into it. She buys the story, and of course, she still charges me, but a reasonable rate, okay? But she really goes to work, and she helps us solidify this thing, and I think she's got us protected. And you could tell she just cared. And she said, "Boy, when this thing comes out, let me know." Well, I kind of forgot about it. A year and a half goes by that they're working on this thing, and it breaks, and it's early on. It's maybe 5 days after it breaks, and things are looking good. We're starting to hear a few things, but, I still didn't know that it was going to be total blow-up. So we're laying in bed. It's 10:30 at night, and the phone rings. It's Suzette. Annie, you can't believe this thing. It's unbelievable. All my friends are talking. And he says, I even talked to somebody out of state. They know about it. And I'm so proud of you. And geez, did you think it would be this big? And I said, well, no. He says, but look, she says, guess what? You think that's good? I got something else for you that's great. And I said, what? She says, I just signed Miss America. I represent Miss America. I said, so? Miss America is a pharmacy student. Her platform is opiates.
Dude, that's awesome.
Wow.
So we're going to get together with Miss America.
Cool.
Okay, now how the hell does that happen? Okay.
If you need a studio, you can bring her over here.
She went to, she went to VCU, which is Virginia Commonwealth.
Right,
okay?
right.
She was Miss Virginia, okay. That college calls me up to give the commencement speech.
Wow.
This weekend, I met with some Democratic friends, and this weekend I'm going to meet with some Republican friends.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and who do they have there? Mark Warner.
Oh, really?
He's from Virginia.
Yeah.
He's a senator. I mean, like bing, bing, bing. So hey, what are the chances that you're going to have a pharmacy student win Miss America, and that she's going to have
Same
that
year
platform?
Everything just falling in line for her.
Yeah, it really is. The stars are aligning.
It's crazy. I will say this. Along the way, though, a lot of this times, I thought God was on my side. But boy, it was hard. And so I would many times say, okay, God, you're helping me out every day. Why are you making this hard? Why don't you just let it happen? What's crazy now is it's almost like he's laying stones.
Mm-hmm.
And, maybe we'll get a little setback there, okay? But right now, it's just going smooth. It's like he wants us to make a difference, and he wants us to do it pretty fast. 130 a day are dying.
Jeez.
500,000 have died since my son died.
Take that, coronavirus.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
All right, now you mentioned the lawyer and everything. We're going to wrap up here. Who are some of the people that you'd like to thank that didn't really get recognition? Just give me some names, because this is, this is something that's never going to go away. When we put this is going to go up on YouTube, but then we're going to have the full show, the 2-part series. It's going to be produced. It's going to be all, it's going to be flashy. It's going to be all flashy.
I'm glad you did that, because I haven't had a chance. They look at me as like some superhero that did this all by myself. Nobody ever does it by himself, okay? In the Ninth Ward, I had some bad cops, really bad cops, horrible. That's another big story. But in any event, I also had some blacks in that community that stepped up. Surprisingly, as bad as that community is, the witness stepped up, the church went out and walked the streets with me. So, that's one, I like to thank those people. One of them is Reverend Reed, particularly. That's the guy that actually walked the streets with me. Okay, but there's a lot of unknown people that I can't name that helped out. Then I'd like to thank, of course, my family, for sticking with me in that. And then obviously I got to thank God, okay, because none of this would have happened. And the other thing,
Shane,
Shane, the witness. Excuse me, Shane Matting, the witness. We have a GoFundMe account for her right now.
Oh, really? I'd like to. Okay, I want to know about that.
MADDING. GoFundMe.
Okay.
So in any event, also what I want to think is, in St. Bernard, I got little help from New Orleans, although there were a few good cops there too, okay? And at times they helped a little bit, okay? But St. Bernard helped as much as they could, even if it was out of their jurisdiction.
Mm-hmm.
And so there were some things they did help me a little bit with that case, but they also helped me a little bit with the Dr. Cleggett case.
Mm-hmm.
Jack Stevens authorized me and a good friend of mine who was a captain on the force to actually go out and use this truck that they have that has different cameras. And one time we actually used the St. Bernard truck to videotape because Jack wanted me to get it to the FBI. He wasn't going to give it to the FBI. He thought it would be more credible coming from me. But I had security. And usually I wouldn't go behind the building because if you go behind the building, you could get trapped, okay? But we went behind the building because my buddy was a cop and he had a gun, okay? And he had this big, massive SUV. So Jimmy Pullman is a person to thank. Jack Stevens, a person to thank. A guy named Chad Clark is a guy to thank. And then the prosecutor for the medical board is a guy named George Papali. George was a tremendous guy that worked hard. And I know him, Robbie Termini.
Robbie. We didn't talk about Robbie. Robbie was something.
He was. And the kid has had some problems in the past, and maybe even still isn't the most perfect person. But he bought into this thing. Mm-hmm. And one thing he did for me was, everybody thinks he was this great investigator with me, which he was to some extent. But what he really was, for some reason or other, when I would talk to Andy about this or anybody, and I was in this animated state, I couldn't relate to them, okay? And Robbie could relate to me. It was like you thought you were crazy. Like, nobody sees this, okay? And Robbie would say, you're right. It's not bad, Danny, okay? You're not crazy, okay? And so bouncing it off somebody and maybe because he was in that world a little bit.
Yeah.
No, he did. And can we forget anybody? Naturally, my daughter, you.
Of course, yep.
Anybody else?
Damn.
I'm sorry if I forgot somebody, but any of that, we had help.
Well, the sponsor of our podcast is a company called Coin Trader Inc. All right, it's a precious metals and rare coin firm, and on behalf of them, they want to make $1,000 donation to Tunnel of Hope.
I appreciate that.
So we're gonna do that. So you leave our studio with a valuable prize. We'd like to give away valuable prizes
from our favorite sponsor.
I want to thank you, Nick, our executive producer, for helping me for this. And this is a
blessing, honestly.
This has been a complete honor to have you here. I mean, and Annie, God bless you. You're going to be in our praise. Dan, you are the man. Okay. God chose the right person.
Well, the DelGiorno name is a pretty good name. And,
thank you.
And your dad was a great guy. So it's fitting that we're talking right now. And I think together we're going to accomplish it.
I'm with you. Anything you need from me. The New Orleans DelGiornos, we want to be here to help. So thanks a lot. If you or anyone you know has an opioid addiction, please contact tunnelofhope.org and get yourself some help. God bless you, everybody.
Okay.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks for joining us for this All Over the Road New Orleans special edition, part 2 of the exclusive interview with the pharmacist Dan Schneider. If you or someone you love has an opioid addiction, you can get help at tunneloflove.org.
All Over the Road is a presentation of Coin Trader Inc. Mind your money.